As the number of available GMO fruits and vegetables increase, we should learn which are good foods to eat from those that are not good food choices. Joining us is NNV Contributor Charles Muhammad to talk to us about how to eat to live and what vegetables to choose. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back, Brother Charles.
I was muted. Walaikum salam. Thanks for having me.
So let's get right to it. You know, this is one of our favorite segments, one of my favorite segments, because I learn so much when we have you on weekly. So we'll get right to the point with our first question, Brother Charles. Last week, we went into GMO foods. And so we wanted to ask the question, what does How to Eat to Live say which fruits and vegetables we should eat?
Yes, sir. Well, right within the first 5 or 6 pages of How to Eat to Live, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that virtually all fruit is good to eat. And then he says virtually all vegetables are good to eat. Then he begins to list the no-nos of vegetables that are not good for us, namely peas, beans, except for the small white navy bean, potatoes, soybean, corn, rice, nuts, and even greens. So trying to explain this to a person who wants to become vegetarian, and when we say, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says be vegetarian, but there's certain vegetables you can't eat. You need to take the time to explain why those certain vegetables are not good to eat. And so when I point out that most beans and peas and nuts are not good for us, that is because they are seeds. And the New York Times did an article in 2011 where it talked about the toughness of seeds. They're designed to go through you, particularly animals like birds. They eat fruit with seeds in them, and then they fly, and then they defecate, and then they plant a new plant or tree. We don't want to be the delivery system for plants like that. So we can try to eat these vegetables. I know some of us, we have parents who've cooked us peas and rice, red beans and rice. Even though you may say your mother's red beans and rice is killer, it's basically killing you. So you want to pull away from those type of foods as taught by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
So, Brother Charles, how do we determine which vegetables are good to eat and which vegetables are not so good to eat?
Well, taking the guidance from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his student, the Honorable Muslim Farrakhan, we can look into the Bible and see in the first book of Genesis, I should say chapter rather, 29, where it talks about which plants are good for us and which are not. And it says that the plants with fruit with seed and trees with fruit with seed in it is for us. Then in verse 30, it talks about for all the birds and the beasts and the animals that crawl on the ground, I give every green plant for food. So the green plants are for the animals, not so much us. Because yes, I will admit, most green vegetables have a lot of nutrition in it. It's just not for us. Leave it for the cows and the horses and all those, the rabbits, those animals that can digest the cellulose that make up these green leaf vegetables. Because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, book number 2, says that green leaf vegetable, it's okay in little bits, but large amounts of it is not good for us because it's hard for us to digest. It's rich in fiber. It's good if you want a nice colon cleanse to eat it. It'll just go right through you, but it's hard to digest foods like mustards, collards, and things of that sort.
Now, you know, some people are going to say, you know, that's a little extreme. Would you not say that a little bit of greens are good to eat?
Well, yes. If you read How to Eat to Live, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that spinach, a little bit of it is good, but don't become a habitual spinach eater. But brothers and sisters, let's be principled eaters. How to Eat to Live is a science. It's not an art, and it's not a sport. So when you look at spinach, let's take Popeye. Popeye promoted eating spinach. But when you eat spinach, it's better to combine it with olive oil, right? From the cartoon. That's why his girlfriend was named Olive Oil. But if you eat too much spinach, it'll cause bloating. And who is the enemy of Popeye? No other than Bluto. So these are things that we learn as children. You can eat spinach, it's good for you, but too much of it is not good for you. And if you are going to eat it, make sure you can combine it with the proper food, which is olive oil.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad mentioned grafted vegetables. What are those, and are they safe to eat?
Well, grafting of vegetables has been going on for thousands of years, and horticulturalists, botanists, and agriculturalists use this science to help them yield more fruits and vegetables. Some people see it as a Franken foods type of thing when you're combining foods or taking parts of them and isolating them. But this is a natural practice, particularly when you want to enhance your fruit yield. So certain countries, they've identified plants that are produce a fruit, and they take a sapling of it and then combine it with another plant that may have been struggling so it can enhance its yield of bigger fruit. It is a natural technique used in horticulture.
So when we talk about grafting of natural fruits and vegetables, the question that comes to my mind, and maybe many others in our viewing audience, is, are there any drawbacks to the grafting of natural fruits and vegetables?
From my research, I don't see much drawback other than you can lose certain ancestral lines, because particularly in apples can produce on one tree different variations of fruit. They can produce Granny Smith, Macintosh, and other types of apples. So what apple growers like to do is when they see a branch that's producing a Granny Smith apple, cut that branch, root it so it can grow roots, and then plant it. Then you try to get a whole Granny Smith tree. But when you allow this process to get out of hand, you lose certain branches of species. But there's also a good side to grafting. You get a variety of different vegetables that are good for the human family, particularly broccoli and cauliflower. They come from the same plant. But you must know the science, the proper science of grafting, so it won't be harmful to you.
Yes, sir. So in How to Eat to Live, was Mr. Muhammad concerned about any of these grafted vegetables?
Yes, sir. Now, there is a plant, it's called the wild mustard plant, that has produced other vegetables that we are knowledgeable of or know of, which is broccoli and cauliflower, but also kale. Kale is a weed, right, that has a history in the United States that even cows don't want to eat kale. So farmers were saying, well, what am I going to do with this? Then all of a sudden, there became a marketing campaign to call kale a healthy superfood. So in like the first portion of How to Eat to Live on page 4, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, do not eat the vegetable called kale. Because his brothers and sisters are good to eat, like cauliflower or Brussels sprouts, but kale is one of those greens that are not good for you and has adverse effects. It's particularly the science of it affecting the thyroid, and also it is a goitrogen, which at some point in time we could go into. But like you see, that family tree, certain parts of that family tree of that plant, we should not be eating. But that is the history of grafting. There's some good and there's some bad. And we've identified the grafted vegetables you shouldn't eat, and that is kale and the mustard greens.
Thank you, Brother Charles, for informing us once again of How to Eat to Live. Let us pause for some announcements from our sponsors. When we return, we'll come back with Student Minister Darryl Muhammad will give us the Al-Asr Report. We'll be right back.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call Radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button, or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel at National Network View. I am Anissa Muhammad with NNVnews.com.
The Al-Asr Report, current events with commentary on the time and what must be done. In a recent news article in the New York Times dated April 11th, entitled Overdose Deaths Have Surged During the Pandemic, CDC data shows, it says, quote, 87,000 Americans died of drug overdoses over the 12-month period that ended in September, according to preliminary federal data, eclipsing the toll from any year since the opioid epidemic began in the 1990s. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, in part 2 of The Time and What Must Be Done, discussed this 8 years ago.
Jesus gave signs of the time. He said that in the last days you would see wars and rumors of wars. There would be famine and pestilence, nation rising against nation and kingdom against kingdom. And he said there would be earthquakes in diverse places. Well, these are things that we are seeing in an ever increasing volume. Then the Quran again tells us, surely the shock of the hour is a grievous thing. And when you see it, every woman giving suck will forget her suckling, and the pregnant one will lay down her burden. You will see men as though they are drunken, but they will not be drunk. Surely the chastisement of Allah God will be severe.
To further discuss this, we have on with us Student Minister Darryl Muhammad. Greetings, sir, and welcome to the Al-Asr Report.
Wa alaikum salam. It is my pleasure to be here and honored to be on the program with you, Brother Robert.
All praises be to God. So we want to just get right to it.
Yes, sir.
What are your thoughts on the recent opioid crisis and how it has risen during the pandemic?
Yes, well, when I first was given this assignment, I was very shocked at the number of overdose deaths that has occurred during this pandemic. And what it has shown to me is that, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has just spoken in the video, that we are now living in the end time and we're in the shock of the hour, and the people now have no clues, no ideas of what to do, and so their minds are stressed. They have no answer. They have no one to counsel them as these things intensify. So in order to escape the pain of the pestilence of coronavirus and the many plagues and earthquakes and weather that is now plaguing the world now, people, in order to escape their pain now, are turning more and more to drugs, and the isolation of the coronavirus pandemic, when we were all isolated, only added to that problem.
Absolutely. So, Brother Darryl, why do you think that death by overdose has become a major public health crisis in America?
Well, according to an article that I read, this has happened because with the overwhelming of the coronavirus pandemic on the healthcare system, overpowered the healthcare system to the degree that all of those other services that they provided for people who were dealing with opiate addiction and drug addictions, they were now no longer able to receive those services. Number one, because the coronavirus pandemic had overwhelmed the hospitals and public health care. And number two, because of the strict isolations that we were all under, then there was no way to have the items that people would give to these people in order to help them if they came into an overdose, or there were not the isolation. And as I read, and when there was no one there with them in order to help them if they overdose, this has caused an increase in the overdose deaths.
Wow. You know, we often relate drug addiction to poverty, but in San Francisco, which is a technology hub here in America, is one of the wealthiest cities in the country. It has become the epicenter for the West Coast of drug overdose pandemic. How is that?
Well, if you look at this, the San Francisco is really a microcosm of what's going on in all of your major cities now. When you look at the San Francisco area, this is where the tech giants, the billionaires, and the new ones who want to be billionaires are now located. So when you have a population of the people in San Francisco, where it is almost, from what I have read, impossible for the average poor working class person to stay there, when you want to make that a city for the rich, then you start to target the low income and the homeless. Now, the problem that they're having is among the homeless. And now the homeless now are being targeted with this drug called fentanyl. It's a drug that is used by the medical scientists, but however, when it is used and properly mixed with other drugs, then this causes a major effect. So now I read in the report that even the police don't even try to stop them from doing it now. Because, you know, as we have been taught, and if you watch this in every major city, there's a drive to remove the poor so that the rich and those who desire to gain from capitalism can live.
Wow. So, Brother Darryl, from a theological and prophetic or scriptural perspective, why do you think this is happening in America at this particular time period?
Well, a part of this is, as Minister Farrakhan just said to us, it is a part of the shock of the hour. It is a part of the chastisement of Allah because of the rebelliousness of the people. And when this pain from this chastisement is overwhelming the people's mind, then the people are looking for methods of escape. And when they have no connection to God, when they have no connection to the spiritual side of themselves to help them to understand what is going on, this causes pressure on the brain, it causes pressure in the spiritual system, and it causes pain in the brain. So in order to escape the everyday realities that we're seeing and the chastisement of God, and the people do not know what is going on, then they are turning to opiates and powerful drugs, of which fentanyl is one, from which I have read was 50 to 100 times more powerful than morphine, in order to escape the reality of the painful reality that they see every day in everyday life.
Wow, you know, that's some major information. You know, when we talk about drug addiction, quite often, you know, we think about ethnicity, we think about socioeconomic position, but these drugs have no labels, and it appears that anybody can be targeted. How can both white and Black America reverse this terrible trend of death by drug overdoses?
Well, if I may, I would suggest to all of us who are listening, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he made a lecture in 1988, I believe, called The Problems in Relationship. And it is in this lecture that Minister Farrakhan went to the root of what causes the drug addiction, alcohol addiction, sex addiction, food addiction. He went to the very spiritual root of it. He said, because in each human being, we all have a biogenetic and chemical need. And when that biogenetic and chemical need is not met through proper relationships with your mother, proper relationships with your father. I mean, he traced it all the way back to when the sperm meets the egg. Then the pain of these improper relationship produces now calls for the brain to call out to meet these chemical needs that are natural, but which could be, if the human being is connected to God and find his purpose for life, then these natural pleasure centers and the happiness that the human being is looking for can be found. But it is only when we establish a proper relationship with our Creator.
Wow, that's some deep science and some deep scientific talk. Well, let me just throw a couple of more curveballs or questions at you. So, given your analysis of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's speech and lecture, given your assessment of it, are we saying that, you know, when we see children growing up and the fathers have been removed in many of the Black households due to some aspects of the welfare system and those types of things, are young men and young women in the inner cities of the United States of America, where poverty is running rampant, are they more likely and more susceptible to engage in activity that will lead to drug addiction, that will lead to overdoses?
Right. See, because many of us are looking for relief from pain. And as I said, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, it is these improper relationships with father, improper relationships with mother, improper relationship with husbands, improper relationship with husband, then we find no natural fulfillment with other human beings. And then we find no natural fulfillment because we're disconnected from God, who is the author of our soul, who is the author of our being and the gift that he puts in us. But when you look in the inner city, when all of the avenues of self-fulfillment is denied to our people, and then we do nothing but perpetuate we just perpetuate, I'm looking for the proper word, we perpetuate the desolate situation from one generation to the next, then there is nothing there to stop us from going on this perpetual motion. So until we can get into the inner cities and give our people purpose, connect them to God, we have to, as Minister Farrakhan said in the lecture, he said, in order to fix this in the drug epidemic, the alcohol epidemic, we really have to do away with the entire way that this approach to curing drugs and medicine, drugs and alcohol, it has to be totally done away with, and a new way has to come. So until we get that and we can take it to the people, then we won't have this problem. but we have to take a new approach, and that approach has to be spiritual.
All right. Student Minister Darryl Muhammad, all the way from Macon, Georgia. Thank you for coming on this week. Let us pause for some announcements from our sponsors. When we come back, Hassan Muhammad will be on to give more advice on budgeting and keeping our money within our community. We'll be right back.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps to combat false media. Cash App NNV News.
Greetings from National Network View. This week's Final Call cover story headline memorializes the late, great DMX. Last week, DMX's life was celebrated at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. Large crowds gathered to honor the legend. They were there to remember a man who wasn't afraid to express his pain with the world. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan spoke via Zoom to the large audience. He delivered words of comfort, wisdom, and guidance to everyone under the sound of his voice. DMX will live on. This FCM volume number 29 edition features the middle page article is a transcript of what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said at the memorial. To read more, subscribe to finalcalldigital.com and tune in to the all-new Final Call Radio. This is the NNVnews.com Final Call cover report.
This is Sister Sajda Muhammad. We are proud to announce that the Sajda House commemorative Elijah coins are finally here. This priceless heirloom, made from recycled copper from the messenger's home, is now available at sajdahouse.com.
Please make sure you leave your comments and questions in the comment section below. Follow us on Facebook, National Network View, and make sure to check us out on Twitter as well, National Network View. This is Sergio Gutierrez with National Network View, signing off.
By circulating money in our own communities, budgeting, and reducing spending, we will help build wealth for ourselves, our family, and our own people.
The poverty in Black America. Below the surface of America's trillion-dollar economy, there are inequalities between men and women, age, education, but the largest inequality is skin deep. The largest creators of wealth in America have been Black people. For 246 years, enslaved Africans created the wealth for their owners, a wealth that whites still profit from today. Since its inception, the U.S. economy has had two realities, one Black and one white. The structural barriers put in place before the Civil Rights Movement still affect Black Americans of today.
Joining us to discuss this is Hassan Muhammad. Greetings, my brother, and welcome to the show.
Greetings to you, dear brother. Thank you. It was on mute.
Well, you know, we have some technical difficulties, but we can fix it just quick. So let's get down to it, my brother. Why should I make a budget right now if I don't have one?
As we talked about on our previous segment, brother, budgeting is essentially your financial report card. This will direct your financial activities, direct your thinking, and give you foresight, really a gift of prophecy, financial prophecy, if you will, of what it is that you can expect in your household as you deal with the financial challenges that may come up day to day, week to week, or month to month.
For those in our viewing audience that are hearing, you know, this type of information for the first time and may have never, made a budget before, where do I get started making my own budget?
Pen and paper is the age-old method to budgeting, and putting it down on a piece of paper. So it can be just that simple. Rent, mortgage, insurance, groceries, these things that we purchase daily, weekly, or monthly. And you can go as grandeur as myself. I have an Excel spreadsheet that I use, and I've developed a year budget for my household. At one point, and I kept it rolling out 12 months. So you can be as crude as and start. I only want to say crude, but as simple as pencil and paper to start, and then Excel or any other budgeting apps that are out there. And there are many. Some of our banking institutions offer budgeting apps right where we bank, where we can track our expenses right inside what they offer for us as well.
All right, brother Hassan. I just graduated college. I have a degree in engineering, and I just landed an opportunity with Tesla making 6 figures. I don't have a budget. I'm ready to put one together. What should I put on it first?
Yes, sir. Well, congratulations, dear brother. And I would say, it's not how much we make, and that's what the budget helps us do, so that we are living below our means, whether we make 6 figures or 1 figure. We are setting ourselves up for success and continued growth. So again, the first thing that you have to do, brother, is really you should have already had a budget. But if you do not have one yet, rent or mortgage, food, any money you spend on groceries, gas, insurance, anything that you use a US dollar bill for needs to be on your budget sheet. And I literally mean anything. If you get a cup of coffee every day at Starbucks on your way into Tesla, that needs to be on your budget sheet as detailed as possible. Try to categorize and separate everything out as best as you can, because this is like your dossier, your financial dossier that you're going to use to help maneuver you into the future. Saving, if you're going to save, put that on there. If you're going to have any investment vehicles that you want to contribute to on a monthly or weekly basis, that should be in your budget sheet as well. And any future plans that you may want to take up, if you want to get a larger home, that can be in a future budget section. So you'll have your current budget section and then what you would like your future budget to look like.
So, Brother Hassan, should I concentrate on daily expenses, or should I do daily, monthly, or annual expenses? How should I do that? Weekly, annually, daily?
So budgets are rolled up. So in the financial world, they have what they call like a forecast roll up. So your household is your business. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that business is the activity of life. So managing your house like a business. So we're going to use a lot of these financial terms because we really have to understand that that's what we're doing. So you can start daily and then roll those up to a monthly budget. At a minimum, we would like to have all of the numbers roll up monthly. So if you buy a Starbucks every day and it's $10, no exaggeration, in a lot of places it's almost 10. So we're just going to round up. So that's 5 days a week. That's $50 a week. For approximately 4 weeks in a month, you're looking at $200 a month on Starbucks if you purchase that $10 Starbucks every day. So you can start weekly when you're you can start daily on pencil and paper to help you roll up to the monthly level. But at a minimum, we want to get all of those figures up to the monthly level.
So after I get a budget, I'm looking at this budget and I'm getting in the process of doing that. How will this guide or affect my thinking and my decision making?
So as you have a nice 6-figure income. So that's not maybe what I have. So I'm a bring it down to my level, right? I may be only at the 4 or 5 level figure income. So a monthly budget, once we itemize all of those items on there, if my expenses for the month, say, is $3,000 and my income, because you're also itemizing what it is you bring into your household, is $2,800 a month, then I know at the beginning of the month, I have a shortfall. So I have 30 days now. If I know this on the 1st, then I'm a profit. I can see that by the time I get to the 30th, I'm gonna be $200 short. So I need to make approximately $6 a day before the end of the month to close the gap. If I wait until the 29th and find out that I'm $200 short, I have one day I got to come up with $200. So the budgeting organizes our affairs for the month so that we can stay what they call in the black. When you're profitable or you have extra money at the end of the month, you're in the black. When you have a deficit, meaning you need additional money to pay those bills, you're in the red. So that budget is going to maybe, you're $200 short, no Starbucks this month, right? That Starbucks was $200 for the month. So you'll have to sacrifice that and get the free coffee that they give in the lunch break room with that little powder creamer.
Brother Hassan, I'm happy that you mentioned the two variations in budget, because a lot of people think that we'll be okay if we just make more money, but without realizing that the spending habits and the mindset that we have as it relates to finances follow and they're magnified when we make more money. And so we find ourselves just as broke when we make more money if we don't change the way we do, we don't change the way we spend, and if we don't govern our finances properly. So I'm glad that you made that particular point, because quite often more money will get us, as Biggie said, more problems.
Yes, sir.
So this next question, now that I have a solid, profitable budget, what's next?
So what's next from here, dear brother, is really in the eye of the one whom's budget it is. But if I have a simple answer, is growth. We all want to, right? God tells us to be fruitful and multiply. And that doesn't necessarily just with our families and our children, but that is with our minds, our beings, what it is that he blesses us to acquire in this life and how we share that out with the rest of the world. So now you can, if you have an idea to invest in a business, you can see how much money you have now at the end of the month that you can leverage that cash flow. And there are techniques to do that, where you can leverage $500 a month into 5,000 or 10,000 lump sum. You can just simply save that money up until you get enough cash. You can invest, like I said, in your mind, if you want to go to school and it's going to cost a certain amount for a certificate. So really what your heart's desire is, what your purpose is, you can see how soon you can accomplish that thing with what you have left over or extra at the end of the month.
Wow. Thank you, Brother Charles. We appreciate that that information about finances on this wonderful, wonderful Friday. We're honored to have you, and we hope and pray that we can have you back as a guest. Thank you for coming all the way from Phoenix, Arizona, Brother Hassan Muhammad. Thank you, Brother Charles, with How to Eat to Live. Thank you, Student Minister Darryl Muhammad, all the way from Macon, Georgia. Thank you for joining us today and tuning in to National Network View News. Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel, NNV News. This is Robert Muhammad with National Network View News.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.